Hello everybody, I'm Adam Bigelow. I'm the product manager for Total Workstation. Today we're going to take a closer look at the ILG software and how to configure it. In this video, we're going to be going through how to configure the ILG software. So when you open it up for the first time, you're going to always come up to the Start tab, which is what you see here in front of you. There's 4 categories that you're going to see. You're going to see the station, the tool status, the position, and then the sensors. And essentially why this screen exists is for troubleshooting purposes. So this lets you know that the system is actually communicating, that the tool is locked, showing you what direction the tool is running, and things along those lines. And you can kind of see up here in the top right corner, we have 3 green circles. So this is also showing that we have communication to the software, to the controller, and to the encoder block. Now, if you're setting this up for the first time, where you're going to want to come is the configuration tab. In here, this is where you're going to actually name the station. So you can call it the ILG arm, you can call it the op or the pitch name, you can give it different types of descriptions, and then the location. So where it's at actually in the facility. When it comes to the tightening controller, which you see here, so this is the IP address of the port it's plugged into. And then you can see the actual port identifier as well. So you're going to configure this first. Once you've done that, you're going to go to the Sensors tab. So in the Sensors tab, you're going to actually have to come in here and input this IP address right here. And that IP address is of the actual encoder module that you set up in the previous Product Essential video. So when you went into that block and gave it an IP address, this is where you're going to input it in the actual ILG software so that the software and the encoders can actually communicate to each other. Once you do that, it will see the actual sensors communicating here. The other thing that I do want to point out on this particular page as well is this is where you're going to actually come in and do your calibration of the encoders of the system. So you can actually do a calibrate all, and essentially what that's going to do is if you have an SMC POSI 3 carbon fiber torque tube, you're going to calibrate all, and it's going to basically be a collapsed version and then an extended version, and that's how you're going to calibrate the encoders. If it's an arm, you're going to have it closed and then fully extended. And that's how we're going to calibrate the actual encoders of the arm or torque tube. So moving on from the sensor tab, once you've done all of that, you're going to go to the geometry tab. In here, this is really going to be beneficial and helpful when you're initially setting this up. And the reason being is because this software is automatically going to pick up the arm that's plugged in. So a lot of your X, Y, and Z locations are automatically going to be inputted for you, but you're going to want to establish that the arm is actually looks and is running the way that it should. So you see 3 views here. You see the top view, the front view, and the right side view. And essentially what you're going to want to do is move the arm around in space to make sure that what you're actually seeing is what the arm or the torque tube is doing. So if you're looking at it from the front and you were to pull this part of the arm out, you would expect this to actually move, giving you that visual cue that it's moving out and to the left. If it's moving out and to the right, you know that you have either your X or Z location, either as a plus or a minus in the wrong spot. So then what you would do is just swap those two, and then you should see the view correctly. The other thing that you're going to want to do in here is you can see this is your down angle. So this is basically the arm and then the tool holder. And this is going to account for where the tool is at in space. But let's say you have a longer than standard socket that you want to account for, because the encoders are not necessarily going to pick that up in space. What you can do is actually add a spot here, and then you can account for that directional change. So from here, then you would expect it to go out and then down. So this gives you the ability to then add in that longer than standard socket. Once we've done that, we've established that we're communicating through the configuration of the PF system. We've established that the sensors are talking. We've now communicated that the arm is correctly moving as it should. Now we're going to go into the tightening positions tab. And in here, you can see I have a couple already pre-set up. So you can do a couple different things in here. So you can either establish a brand new one. So add group. And after I've done that, you see that the new group is established down here. And it's going to come up with group, workpiece, group 24, and then free. And in this case, what I'm going to want to do is come up to the top, click edit. It's going to bring up this box. Now in here, I can change this to, let's say, ILG test. And then I want to change this to forced order. I can leave this as a workpiece. The loosening, you can have a different options as far as what you want to do in the loosening aspect of it. So in this, you can say, no, I don't ever want it to loosen. Last position only. So if you're running down and you have a bed rundown, you want that position to loosen, you can set all that up. Or to give you the option, you can just leave it alone. And then as you continue to follow down, it gives you some other options in here. So reject management. What do you want the tool to actually do? Do you want it to keep running? Do you want to retry? Do you want it to bypass? And this all depends on what type of station you're setting up. If it's a repair station, then obviously you don't want to bypass, you want to retry. But in some cases, you might only want to retry once, and then after that first retry, then you want it to bypass. So you can select all that through here. And then once we get to the workpiece image, we can actually go through the images that we have on the system and select that. So in this case, I'll just select point 1, click save, and now we have this group established here. So ILG test, and that it's a forced order. So then when we look at the actual teaching aspect of it on this particular tab, we can come up here and we see teaching. Now, with ILG being really easy and friendly to use, for you to do the teaching, all you're going to do is click this button. It's going to bring this up. And in some cases, you might be working on a part that already exists. So you would just click reteaching. Now, if you're not reteaching, you're teaching for the first time, you would leave that alone and just hit save. And what it's going to do now is highlight this as red. And then you can actually pull the trigger on the tool and it will lock in those positions of the bolt pattern that you're signifying to do. And then as soon as you've done that, what you will do is just click off of the red teaching button. It's going to go back to this grayish black color, and then that is saved. So now you have taught your positions of the pattern that the operator will have to follow within that station, and then you can move on from there. So what would be the next process here is you're going to go to the Workpieces tab. In here, this is where you're going to select a workpiece. So in this case, we selected ILG test. It's going to bring up the part that we have selected and the image that we have selected. And then there's a couple different things that we can actually do in this process. So the first thing you're going to want to do is what I find to be the most useful is the snap to position. And essentially what that means is as you're bringing either the torque tube or the arm into position, if there's a little bit of movement, you don't want that to be clicking in and out of position where the operator can't get on the bolt. What you want that to do is to snap there into that position and then turn blue. So this is giving you a little bit more of a space to be able to get on that bolt. Now, it's not going to allow them to run if they're not in the right location. It's just going to give a little bit of freedom to the operator as they're on that bolt, getting to the spot where they need to be. Now, let's say you get everything taught, you're running through this, and let's say you get to a position and it just seems off. So you should be here and maybe the tool is drifting over here. Maybe it's down here. What you're going to want to do is actually click image referencing. You're going to select what you want to reference. Is it X, Y, X, Z, Y, Z? And you're going to hit save. And it's going to give you instructions like you can see over here. So it says, please move the mouse and the tool to the position in the top left corner. So what you're going to do is go to the top left corner of the part, top left picture, click the button. Now you can see that it's changed colors, letting you know, okay, I've saved that data. Now move to the bottom right corner. So now I'm in this bottom right corner and I clicked it. Now I have referenced the image. And now when you put the tool in this position, it should be taught now. And that is exactly where the tool should be. Once you've done this, you've established the workpiece. you can actually select the positions that you want to then go through. So let's say I change this, I go to the 1-part battery here. You can see that I have the same image, but now these are the actual bolts that I have taught. And if I go through, I select this position right here, I can actually make sure that the dot is actually in the correct location. So all you would do is say, okay, move the image position, and you can actually move that dot to be in the exact spot it needs to be. And then all you have to do is unselect that, and you have moved that dot to be exactly where you want it to be. So once you've established all of your configuration, you've established your positions in your workpiece, now it's time to go to the Process tab. You see the part here because we've selected the image. We've selected our positions. I have one right here where it says 1-part battery. All I have to do is hit set. And this is the first position that we taught. And you're going to then run the positions down as dedicated in your orientation and with the arm. I hope you found this video informative. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your Atlas Copco representative. Thank you.